Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks so much. I'm excited to have you on the lounge. I'm
I'm
excited
excited
to.
to be here.
So, Sarah, can we start off just by telling us a little bit about you and sort of how you got started in dog training, and then just a little snippet on how you got the name Smile?
Absolutely, yeah. So I actually got my start at the San Diego Humane Society roughly 10 years ago. I had switched careers basically from working in an office setting to working at a shelter. It was always my passion. And so I worked there for quite a while, got a lot of experience and really learned what I wanted to do. And then I ended up moving states, moving to Phoenix. And I decided instead of continuing with sheltering that I would start my own business and help dogs before they ended up in the shelter. So I started Smiles Dog Training. And so Smiles is my first name, Sarah, just the initial with my last name, Miles.
That's just a gift to have
Yes.
that kind of name. Well, let me ask you this, because we often talk to entrepreneurs at all sorts of different stages of life, and I think there's this like perception that people just wake up and they want to become entrepreneurs and
Right.
like they're just going to do everything they can. And we just got a wake up call from some of the
Yes.
dog trainers in our community that basically said, "Look, I'm actually a reluctant entrepreneur. If there were
Yes.
companies out there that would have hired me to do what I'm doing, I would have done it. But there aren't. You don't see these mega corporations that provide dog training services. So which camp are you in? Are you like, I was born to be an entrepreneur, or actually I just had a passion and I had to follow it?
Yeah, I would say I was kind of an entrepreneur in hiding. Um,
I love that. I love that.
my mom was, she had her own business. And so I knew what that kind of life was like. And I wasn't very sure that I wanted to do that when I started out. So I worked for quite a few other people. And I really got to a point where I was like, I think I could do this better. I'm going to do it myself. And so I did, but I kind of fell into it because when I moved to Phoenix, I wasn't sure if I was going to stick with sheltering or even just dog training in general. And so I started doing some, classes on web development and kind of trying a different path. And then I kept having people say, "Oh, you know about dogs? Can you help me?" And so I sort of just stumbled back into it because yes, I can help you, and yes, I want to, and I
They
love
got you
it,
out of
and yes,
hiding. They got you out of hiding.
exactly.
We often talk to people who are early in their development as entrepreneurs in the pet professional industry, and we see and hear time and time again that the shelter community is actually a great place to start. And so,
Yes.
can you say a little bit about like how that early part of your career prepared you for what you do now?
Absolutely, yeah. I think what you get to see in a shelter setting, in terms of the variety of behavioral challenges that people weren't able to help their dogs with, and just kind of the whole gamut of things that you see in a shelter setting. And you're there working with the dogs. You have no history most of the time. You have no owner that has a relationship with this dog, and you have to figure out how to build that relationship and find the right answers. I think it's a really great way to really learn all of the different things that you need to be thinking about when you're training dogs. Because sometimes you can have just the best owner dog relationship, and it's your job is done for you. But when you have to work in that shelter setting, it really builds your skills.
Okay, so because people are always like super jealous of pet professionals because they're like, you get to do that all day
Right.
while I'm in an office over here. Can you just tell people what a typical day for you is like?
Yeah, I don't really have a typical day because every day is a little different. I'm sure every entrepreneur can agree to that. But I really try to be intentional about how I set my day up. I've done so many different versions of it, and so I usually start out in the morning. That's I'm drinking my coffee and checking my emails and writing up training plans and going over notes, checking in with clients. And depending on the season in Phoenix, sometimes I'm, out the door by 7 to get to an appointment before the heat really it takes over. And
Takes
then
over.
Exactly, exactly. But then in the winter, obviously, we have beautiful days in the winter, so I can work all day. And so it kind of depends on the time of year as to what my day looks like. But I'll get out, get some training in, and then usually in the afternoons, especially since the pandemic, I have a lot of Zoom sessions with clients.
Mhm.
So I use my afternoons for the Zoom sessions to either check in on how training's going or do consultations or things like that, and then end of day wrap up, and then I try to make sure that I have my evenings free for the most part so that I can spend time with my family.
Awesome. And so, and we've asked other folks who are doing kind of virtual training, and I think depending on the industry, if you're life coaching, that's like seems seamless. If you're doing kind of training for dogs, that seems harder. Like, what's your sense of like
Right.
virtual versus in person? Like what you lose and what you gain?
Yeah. So what I love about virtual is that it can sometimes take the dog out of it, because sometimes we need to just focus on, okay, how are we setting up our house? How are we setting up our scenarios? And we really want to make sure that we are having kind of that human to human discussion. So I tend to do a lot of that in my Zoom calls. But I can absolutely, especially with basic manners or when we're working on muzzle training or any of those kinds of things, coaching folks through those initial steps is really, it's pretty simple to do in the Zoom sessions. And then as we go along, if we need to tweak, we do those in the in-person session. So I love it. I'm not going back to, it will always be hybrid from here on out, because I think you just get so much out of both versions. And if you really can structure that to optimize it, it's really, really nice.
Well, that sounds cool. I was a pet parent at some point, and before I became, a person parent,
Right.
and one of the things that really got me is that the level of training that that the humans need, right, to be able to make
Yes.
this relationship work. And I think about like sort of fitness training, and I compare
Right.
it to dog training, where you have this goal, right, like in terms of fitness training. But sometimes, like in any given day, you just kind of don't feel like it, right? Like I don't want to do the push-ups or the
Absolutely.
sit-ups or follow this training plan. So, how do you motivate pet parents to kind of do the right thing, to model that behavior, to sort of to stay in front of where they're trying to go with their relationship with their parent, with their dog?
Right. Yeah. So I tend to have a lot of conversations about, okay, what are our goals? What are we really able to do in your life and your routine and the amount of time you have? And I'm constantly checking in on that, right? Because sometimes we might say, oh, we're gonna spend the next week doing this, and then the refrigerator breaks and somebody's got to go to a sports game, and all this
Exactly.
stuff comes up, right? So I'm very forgiving when clients have one of those weeks, and if it's really getting into, okay, it's that way every week, we need to look at the goals and really see if those are the right goals for us. And it is very much like fitness training. That's
So,
a
so
really
you
good
have
analogy. Yeah,
you've been in a position where you have to recalibrate, and we're going to set a
absolutely.
different goal because
Yep,
we just can't get there right now. Interesting.
exactly. Yep.
So, I've always envisioned, and we see a lot of dog trainers where it's like, hey, 3 months and we're done, six
Right.
months and we're done. Do you ever have situations where it's like every 3 months we might come back and sort of keep working on the next milestone, the next goal? So it's more of a longer term relationship.
Absolutely. I have families that I'm getting to, go through their lives with their dogs. They lose one and they add one, and or something new comes up and they're calling me back to help them out. And I love those relationships. I have some clients who I have only a couple of sessions and we've gotten to where they want to be, and I don't ever see them again. And I am welcoming to all of those relationships. I'm happy to be a part of a family and just be an extra support for them, and I'm happy to give you what you need and send you on your way.
Something for everyone.
Yes.
Well, I noticed on your site you do a lot more than I've seen others with just like tools for pet parents. And so, like, how did you get into that? Kind of, is that an ancillary part of your business? Is that part of your marketing, just to kind of raise the visibility? How do you think about that part of your business? And then how do pet parents engage with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I will say a lot of it came up during the pandemic. I had more time on my hands, so I was able to invest in creating some online courses and even just doing work with folks over the internet and learning. Okay, this could make a really good online resource for folks. And it was so what I'm doing now, right? We're getting back to things that are kind of normal, sort of, and
Sort
we
of,
are
right?
yes. And so I'm starting to look at ways to kind of again I love the idea of these like hybrid resources, right? We have a little bit of everything because everybody learns differently, right? No, some people they need that hands-on experience. Some people want to be able to revisit things over and over again and, take different pieces out of it. So the more that I can complement my services and, have the in-person and the virtual sessions and online courses to put everything together for you when I'm not present, it's working out wonderfully. And I'm really excited for everything that I'm building.
Wow. So two more questions, then we're going to go into lightning round. As you look forward and think about your business, what can we expect? What do we want to be cheering you on around as you think about growing your business?
Yeah, I am really excited to just continue to build the community of positive reinforcement trainers. I've been involved in that a lot more over the last couple of years, and especially once Zoom became such a common meeting place, Instagram Live, Zoom, all of those things, that virtual access. So I'm really excited to build up the community. It's a newer community in terms of focusing on how do we help our dogs, help the humans, help everybody have a better experience with each other and build those relationships. And so that's where I'm focusing a lot of my time now. But also I love giving pet parents resources, so I'm going to continue to build those online courses and the blogs and the Instagram reels and all of those fun things. So the social media aspect as well.
We'll be watching.
Awesome.
How did you find out about Pocket Suite? What's your experience been?
Yeah, so I want to say that I stumbled upon Pocket Suite in a dog trainer Facebook group. Somebody
Ah, cool.
recommended it, and I checked it out. I looked at a couple other things, and when I had a brick and mortar shop, we used a couple of other formats for processing payments and clients and everything. And I love Pocket Suite because one, it's so easy to access the team and say, hey, this would be really amazing if we could have this. But it's also been it's just everything that I've needed has been in the app. So even when I wasn't really sure what I needed, I was able to find it, and it just helped me build my business. So it's been great, and I've basically used it since the beginning.
We love that. Sure. Actually, I'm going to cheat and ask one more question just about
Yes,
the industry at
sure.
large. There was a lot of fear
Hmm.
because we had like skyrocketing adoptions
Yes,
of dogs during COVID, and there was a lot of fear that like when people have to go back to work, there's going to be massive, drop off of dogs at
right,
shelters. What
right.
are you seeing happening? Is that fear still a factor? And like, any advice for folks who are finding themselves with a changed situation that might
Right.
impact their dogs?
Yes. I definitely have been seeing that, right? Everybody's going back to work. It's a different situation. So that's something that a lot of my colleagues and I were trying to build resources for helping your dog know how to stay home alone. I have plenty of colleagues who specialize solely in separation anxiety. So great resources out there for folks who want to help their dogs. But overall, I think, being aware of what a challenge this was for the humans that are involved and how much they did need a dog companion in such a crazy time, and being able to open space for that as we are trying to get back to normal life, that if people need to take a little bit of time or need to reach out for those resources, being supportive of that. It's okay that your dog isn't perfect right now. We can help you get your dog to a place that works for you. So don't be afraid to reach out, get a professional involved, and work on it. And if you can't, I also, coming from a shelter background, I do say that shelter workers are amazing, and we want to help you with your dog. Reach out to the shelter because there are a lot of resources shelters provide as
Wow.
well
Yeah.
to help owners who maybe aren't feeling like they can keep a dog, and it's really something that actually the shelter might have a program for.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So lightning round, we want to know more
Okay.
about you personally. So,
Sure.
what are you currently streaming? Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, anywhere? What are
Oh
you
my
currently watching
gosh.
that we should keep an eye on?
Okay, so I was just talking about this. I just discovered What We Do in the Shadows, and that is something that I'm binge watching.
I have not heard of it. It's on my list now. I love it.
Perfect.
Favorite place to travel in the world?
Oh man. Okay, Spain, Barcelona.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Anthony Gaudi, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then what's your favorite motto or like quote that you sort of live by as you think about your life as an entrepreneur?
Oh man. I can only think of dog related mottos.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dogs do what works. Set your dog up for success. Set yourself up for success. That's probably my motto.
That works for humans too, for sure.
Yes.
And then what next big thing is happening for you or your business that we should keep an eye out for, and where can we find it? Where can we kind of join and like and do all that fun stuff?
Absolutely. Here on Instagram, I'm really starting to dive into the reels and use those more for tips and training stuff. So I would say follow me here on Instagram and help me by watching those reels.
Awesome. We'll do. We'll do. Sarah, it's been a joy talking to you. Happy Friday. And we're
Thank
going to
you.
be sharing this far and wide and rooting
Perfect.
for you. Anything you need, reach out, in
Awesome.
support.
I will. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.